Hello, everyone, and welcome to a peekaboo-esque episode of Birds of Play. I'm John Stradlin-McCrone, joined by
Logan Anstead.
Jarris George.
DJ Pierce.
I'm gonna let that sit. 5, 4.
We the best.
So today we have something very special to talk about. I'm actually excited for it because of the stance that I'm getting married. The stance that you're taking
Poor soul.
this episode. It was a HTC Vive or Oculus conference. What was it again?
It was one of the executives of the people who make Oculus Rift.
What was the event though? Do you remember? I don't remember.
I forget. The point was, big executive talked about how
John Carmack, yeah.
Yeah, John Carmack talked about how he thinks VR is riding on a gimmick.
Yeah, I actually have the direct quote here. We are coasting on novelty and the initial wonder of being something before people have never seen before. Excuse me, I'm butchering this. But we need to start judging ourselves, not in a curve, but in an absolute sense. Can you do something in VR that has the same value or more value than what these other non-VR things have done? He also talked about some specific problems that VR had, like for them specifically, namely load time, saying it's a 30-second boot up for most VR games, and he says, that's acceptable if you're going to sit down and play for an hour, but in VR, initial startup time really is poisonous. An analogy I like to say is, imagine if your phone took 30 seconds to unlock every time you wanted to use it. You'd use it a lot less. Your phone takes 30 seconds to start up?
Depending on how I feel that day.
Don't you still have like an iPhone 4?
Well, my Android does it too. That's not the point here.
Anyway,
point is, obviously this guy's never played Batman VR because
No, but this the whole thing was, what's so big about this is like, this is one of the guys who's like behind this whole movement that like VR is the future and everything, and he's basically just saying like, what we have right now is not good. It's just a gimmick. Like it's PS Move.
But it is also the very beginning of it. It's the birth of VR.
I mean, it's been
and
out for
the birth of video games. Was
But HTC Vive and Oculus have been out for months now.
Yeah.
But still, they're
the
first line.
Well, like think about if Xbox One launched and there were no games for it that like drew anybody in.
That's exactly what happened.
Rome Rise, man, that got me.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that
Dead Rising 3.
That 2-hour gameplay.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, like.
Eggle 2.
Man.
No, but what Xbox One and PS4 had games at the launch. It was PS4 and Xbox One were iterations on what the PS3 and what the Xbox 360 were. People knew what to expect. It was basically like for better or for worse, the games have been prettier and more graphically good on PS4 and Xbox One. More graphically good.
We started with good and then.
Yeah, but they're essentially, it's a step up in graphics. There hasn't been anything revolutionary that's happened with, this generation of consoles, and what VR is supposed to be the next revolution. And
that's not true. There is something revolutionary. Neither of them are very backwards compatible. So.
You mean the consoles?
Xbox One is becoming.
It's getting there.
Getting off topic.
Working on it.
Getting off topic.
We digress.
And to throw some math at it a little bit to kind of put, I guess, me and Logan's view on this one. A report by uploadervr.com, apparently they do like a bunch of VR news. They looked at the numbers for Steam adoption rates for different VR systems over in July and August of this year. The HTC Vive grew by a player base of about 3% in July and was completely stagnant in August. The Oculus grew by 3% in July and 1% in August. They now estimate that a total of all Steam users, a total of 18% own a Vive and 10% own an Oculus.
Well, you have to also look at it. If you're going through Steam to get these games and you're trying to make sure your unit is VR ready, like that takes a lot out of your pocket that if you don't already have invested in it.
Exactly.
The Vive is the one that's 800, right? And the Oculus is 600?
Oculus is 600. It will be bumped up to 800 if you want to buy the Oculus Touch, which was just released.
Right.
But Vive is 800 out of the box, not including the at least $700 plus you need to have a VR-ready PC.
Not even that.
Like
it's $1,000 to $1,500.
People have been finding ways to make it VR-ready. So like 700 is like the lowest you could possibly go. But like basically you need a new PC or need to heavily upgrade. The thing that like I wanted to get at is like PSVR released this week. It released yesterday to the public. And there's been a lot of people who are saying they're enjoying it and such.
Just like the Wii.
Yeah, but the Wii I enjoyed throughout its life cycle, just here and there. But
You and 5 other
I
people.
did. Here's the thing. I played PSVR the first time and I got super nauseous, right? I tried it out at a Best Buy. I played the Batman VR thing and I was like, oh, this is cool. Like,
Have you just eaten a McDonald's hamburger?
no,
That's important.
I had just watched a movie at the movie theater. I went across the street.
How
to
long
Were
did
you
you
talking to
play
Babe?
it before?
I played it for 15 minutes.
And then you started feeling sick?
Yeah.
Where's the detonator?
And so like I was like, all right, I heard this happens the first time. Wow.
It happens to the best of us.
I heard
That's
it
nothing to
happens
be
the first
ashamed
time,
Hey,
so I'm
that's
like,
McCree's
whatever.
line.
So I went back more recently and I tried out another demo at a Best Buy, and I played the VR Worlds thing, and I got heavily nauseous again from
Which
even
part of VR Worlds?
from even less time. The like Battle Zone mech thing.
Was that a different Best Buy?
Huh? No,
Was it
it was
Best
the
Buy?
same Best Buy.
To Best Buy.
Because we
Problem
went
right
back
there.
for the hurricane,
I mean,
people.
honestly.
Common
Yeah.
denominator.
But no, so I had the combination of this and something I watched from one of the big industry journalists, Jim Sterling, who coined the term privilege goggles, right? So like I get migraines like crazy. I get nauseous from this. I don't normally get motion sickness. The reason why he calls it privilege goggles is because you need a certain amount of finite space. I had a PSVR pre-ordered, but I had to cancel it because my dorm room literally doesn't have enough space to fit this thing. The cost is outrageous. And obviously the physical and health ailments I have to deal with this first iteration make it to what he was saying, maybe not as extreme as he was saying,
Right.
calling it privilege goggles, but I literally can't play this because of just basic things that are out of my control.
Exactly.
I have the money for it, but I just
See,
can't.
I get motion sick when I read a book while I'm driving, or while somebody else is driving. So is that what the problem? Just don't read
You
while you're
read
playing
No,
a
VR.
book
no, here's
while
the
you're
thing,
Like
like,
saying like
driving.
any movie.
No,
just
because,
the
like,
game regular.
in VR worlds, like almost every game has an elevator in it, right? Or like,
Mm-hmm.
you have these type of simulated things that it's virtual reality. It's supposed to simulate your reality.
Right.
The problem is when
Oh,
you're
that's what VR stands for.
Yeah. Oh wow. The problem is when you see this thing, like say you're going down an elevator and you're expecting to feel that oomph of the
thump,
elevator
yeah.
falling down, but your body doesn't feel that, and so it just makes you sick because you're just going through the motions of this without going. It's like at at Disney World they used to have that simulated roller coaster ride. The problem was because it was inside a capsule, it didn't have any G-force, so you literally just had all the blood rush to your head every time you flipped upside down because it's a simulation. It's not the actual thing.
It's like a
And
Spider-Man
so-
ride.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a roller
Yeah.
coaster, but you're not even actually moving.
But
It's
like
kind of stationary.
the-
Kind of like
Yeah,
that
yeah,
Harry Potter
but-
one. You are
Yeah.
moving.
But see,
it's still tilting
Spider-Man,
all over the
that
place.
Spider-Man ride at Universal and the rides that do that like that, the Transformers, like they have that motion and they
Yeah, they
have
actually
that,
have, like,
that
shock and
movement.
stuff.
VR is like having all that stuff go around and all that crazy stuff without
Without-
any of the movement, and that
it's
just makes
physical.
it made me heavily nauseous, and it was
Now,
really
is that like
disappointing.
a health thing or a concentration thing? Because now that I think about it, like even when you have the Samsung did their VR and they had some of their games and all this stuff was going on, I could sit down in the chair, I could play, look around, spin, do all the other
Right.
fun stuff. I was perfectly
But
fine.
the issue isn't like looking around and spinning. Like the whole idea of having 180 degrees of motion is fantastic. Like I would love to. I know most people don't like it as much, but like No Man's Sky, I would love to be able to swivel around that
I
world
thought
and
we
see
said
stuff.
we weren't bringing that on the show. again.
What? Okay, fine.
Let's
Drive
go.
Club
No Man's
VR.
Sky? What's
Drive Club VR released, and it's like you're in the cockpit or whatever. That I can
Also not a good
imagine.
example.
Well, I think
I
what
see
you're
what he's
saying
saying,
What
is
it's,
though.
the games that are made so that you're in a cockpit or that you're in this environment that isn't gonna like shift drastically
and with like
all
full
the time.
motion, like it's
Yeah.
actually moving around in this.
The problem is like the Riggs Combat. I haven't been able to play that for PSVR, but I
Yeah.
can imagine that's going to make a lot of people sick simply just because like this is not what you're used to, but you're still seeing it. Like it's kind of like when we had Smell-O-Vision or whatever. Like they had that Rugrats.
gosh.
They had that Rugrats movie. You remember that back in like 2004 where you like scratch and sniff or the stuff or whatever. Like that was cool, but like it was also kind of weird because it was like this new thing and your body's
Now it's worth
adjusting. to
noting
it.
that you got sick on the PSVR, right?
Yeah.
And this is the cheapest of the three main VRs. It's it's about 500 if you want everything.
But to put it in perspective, you're hearing this from users of every single one of these devices.
So, but has anybody here tried the Vive or
I have
Oculus?
I haven't.
So we don't have that to go by.
Like
you
I
don't-
said, I've
you've only
only
used
tried the
VR.
Oculus.
I've
for
only
the
used
Samsung.
I've only used PSVR.
I mean, that could be a point that it's a good point that Pierce brings up. Where if it's at a cheaper price point, like I don't really know how the technology in
But
VR works. $100 difference could be a drastic
As
change. in
far as I
technology.
know, the only difference is the resolution of the screens. That's as far as I know, and the fact that the HTC Vive comes with some more peripherals on top of the peripheral that it
And
is.
See, that's what I had an issue with the
Yeah.
resolution of the screens. Like when I hop, I've tried the Samsung one. I've seen a couple people try the PS one. I didn't feel like waiting for it. Like I just heard that it looks differently, but I hadn't really heard a lot of people bring up this issue of I felt weird or this the extra sense that you're expecting to feel or the shock or whatever, you're not getting it, and that's something I hadn't felt also. And it may be how how submersed you are into it, depending on what it is. Because like I said, I played spaceship games where I'm flying around, and I do expect to feel something when you see the screen shake and like you get shot or whatever, but you don't. And I don't know. I know there's a warning on it usually when you go to play. Hey, sit down when you play.
Yeah.
Don't stand up, because when you stand up, then your equilibrium's off and you over here.
PSVR is the only one right now that has a lot of games that allow you to sit. Like
I was gonna say, were you sitting or standing during where you got sick?
I was standing.
Okay, that might be a big difference.
Well, next C3 they're gonna announce probably a nice little peripheral where you pay $30 extra and some guy with a stun rod just shocks you every time you want to be shot. You're like, I'm not getting this.
The thing is, like,
yeah.
I've tried the Samsung Gear VR because I have an S7, and that I don't get motion sickness with, because most of the games
Okay.
Most of the games.
That one's not true VR,
but
right?
That's the thing. But like most of the games on there aren't like super heavily intensive, because it's like it is like mobile games or mobile ports. It was such a weird thing to me, because like I didn't think about it until like I really tried it on. I'm like, oh, because John, like I was talking about how revolutionary I think this thing is, and I still think 10 to 15 years down the line, this is going to be a heavy part of the future of gaming. But like right now, like how many people are prone to getting migraines? There's a ton, and you're basically like, not only are you cutting people off with this price point, but you're cutting people like me off who have the money, who have the expendable income to do it, that just can't buy it because it simply makes us sick.
Well, I do like what you said about in a few years, into 15 years, it's going to be better. And I think about it as like this way. This is the first generation of VR with PSVR, Oculus, and Vive. But when the PSVR 2, Oculus Go, or whatever it's going to be called, come out, there's going to be improvement. Think about the first console generation, and think about now. That's the difference it's going to be in 15 years.
But there's also the problem of this is a peripheral, and like right now the PSVR costs more than a PS4, right? So this is a heavy, like this is the first foray, and I understand where you're coming from, but this is also like a PS Move situation, or even a PS Vita situation, where it's like they're introducing this new technology into the thing. If this doesn't catch on, they may not be able to continue with it. I know I saw this morning that PSVR is being sold at a profit, but I know Oculus and Vive are cutting it real close if they're making any profit at all. So in order for this to work out, people have to buy this. And if people like me that are super adamant about it are hindered by it, the sickness and things like that, that's a problem for their bottom line, and that's the problem for if there really is going to be a future.
Well, and here's the big thing that I want to bring up, where while it's a medium-sized segment of people who do get sick with that kind of stuff, and what you were saying before, like the first console generation, it was pretty crap, like graphics-wise and everything. But my main problem with VR is it's been out for has it been a year?
Not even, but it's been out for a decent amount of time.
10 months.
Like which one are we talking about?
Like the first one.
The earliest was the Vive,
when you could actually buy it, like a consumer could buy it.
Earlier this year.
Earlier this year. But I still haven't seen a game for it where I see it and I
killer
go,
app.
I want to play. I want to have VR.
Now that game for me is probably going to be Resident Evil 7.
But it's not out yet.
Right,
And
but
here's the
it's
thing
come January.
about Resident Evil 7 that I think it looks really cool in VR, but the way I looked at it is if it's VR the whole time, combat in it probably isn't going to be that great, because as we've seen, combat in those kind of games with VR isn't that great, or unless it's a rail shooter, which we know it's not a rail shooter.
Right.
So it'll be a bad VR game, or if they make it where it's VR the whole time and it's just like the demo where it's just jump scares the whole time, it's going to be a bad Resident Evil game. That's not Resident Evil game.
Ain't nothing new.
Another problem that I'm seeing with this stuff too is, like, to your point, the games that are being made right now are being made with the gimmick of VR first and not the game first. The games that should be made and the games that are going to get people to buy the system are going to be the ones that, hey, we made this awesome game that just so happens to play best in VR. And that's what's going to work. The problem with stuff like Resident Evil 7 is 90% of people are going to play that in a regular controller TV setting, right?
Probably myself included.
Yeah, so it's like that game wasn't made for VR. That VR mode is probably going to be tacked on. It's probably going to feel weird unless they really, really focus down and work on that. Like, there are games being made from the ground up for VR, and that's what we need in the future.
I honestly kind of disagree. I mean, the very first demo that came out for that game years ago, before they even called it Resident Evil 7, was a VR demo. I think it is being made for VR, but the normal mode is tacked on.
But was there combat in that demo?
No. There is combat in the full game, which has been finally revealed in trailers.
But we can play walking simulators all day.
And
I can play Gone Home in VR. I would love to do that because that's like a soft thing.
Like I think the main problem is VR is we can say, oh, there's not a games out for it now, and people can say, well, there are eventually going to be games, but I think there's a fundamental problem with VR where you can't have these type of full-on games that people want to buy the console for, like The Last of Us, or some other RPG
or
game,
Rise.
or whatever, or Rise, Son of Rome, because in VR, I don't know if a story-driven game will work. Because the point of a story-driven game is, sure, there's, like The Last of Us, the gameplay's okay, but the main point's the story. And what happens when you get that story bit is the director says, okay, look at this art piece I put in, look at this story or whatever.
Just watching Netflix now.
In VR, they either strain you to look at it, which takes away the point of VR. They let you look around, which ruins the story. So it ends up being a crappy experience either way.
Well, like he said, walking simulators, you're kind of already have that control. You just, if you just put that right analog stick on your head, you can still get, Gone Home, you can still get that awesome experience if you're using VR.
But it's not even just the right analog stick. What VR is doing is it's adding a third analog stick essentially to the controller. So you have the right analog stick that pans you left and right, and then you have the other one that allows you to move up and down, and depending on if it's a racing game, does that. This allows for swivel. This allows for 360 things that you, basically the sensitivity bar that you have on first-person shooters is now your head. The problem with that is it's a very, very tough thing to navigate because I think about Call of Duty, that's my baseline for
what I got in my head.
That's my baseline for
Call of Duty VR or
no, once VR reaches a point to where Call of Duty is on it and people can play that legitimately through the VR system, that's the point where VR has reached the point of mass media attention.
You're gonna really feel like that red
do
jelly
that.
is all over your face.
Let me get this one point. It's just at the point where that happens is where I do think it's going across the threshold. But right now, I look at Call of Duty esports. I watch that all the time. I watch CS:GO esports. They're never going to do VR for their thing because it's literally too much of a Twitch-based thing. Yeah. And so I can see in the future, maybe one day we'll just have glasses that are the VR thing, and it'll be an augmented reality thing, right? I would love for that to happen.
We're all going to be a bunch of nerds, you mean?
I would love for it to be easy like that, and that way I can keep the awareness of what's going on around me. And Xbox seems to be doing that with their lenses, but until we reach that point, this is going to be a niche set of games inside of an already niche market. It's going to be a problem for adopters.
I have 3 points that I want to talk about.
That's why you're holding up a 3.
I have 3 points.
I thought that was a 4.
One, games we're talking about the first iteration of I think VR games for a while is going to be walking simulators. Gone Home didn't sell consoles, didn't sell systems. No one's going to buy VR just to play Gone Home because just read a book.
I agree.
Yeah. The second thing is you say Call of Duty in VR, and while I think that's a good idea, that's going to be a major problem with if you're having motion sickness in an elevator for someone who has is more prone to migraines and stuff. Having a game like Call of Duty in full VR is going to make me feel sick and everything.
To cut into your point real quick and to go back to it, my point is it's going to be mainstream when I can play a game like that without getting that motion sickness.
And here's my third point.
Technology has to go to that point.
If in 15 years they say, guys, we finally cracked the code, VR works in Call of Duty, why is no one at this conference? Nobody's going to care in 15 years. They're going to, some new tech's going to come out. Call of Duty is still relevant, but VR won't be.
I think because PS4 and Xbox One, we're making fun of Rise. Neither of them really started with a great lineup of games. Actually, most consoles don't. Except for the Vita.
Except that Rezo gun, though.
True. But now, at this point, both of them have some really, really great games that are worth buying the system for. And I think if we give all 3 VR systems a chance, in 6 months, next E3, it's going to be all about VR.
Well, I think the biggest obstacle, you guys said it earlier, is the price point. That price point is going to be the heaviest thing for a lot of people because if you have people who are really avid about, yes, VR is going to be great. Yes, I'm going to love it. Yes, yes, yes. Well, you have to get them to devote the money into doing it. And then if you give them this product after they done paid $600, $700, $800, $900, and now they're just
it's just sitting there.
It's just sitting there.
Yeah.
This isn't what I wanted. Ooh, that's not delivering. Those are the primary people who are going to boost your sales and get everybody else.
And as
to
we
join
saw in the report, only 18% and 10% for the both consoles respectively have bought the system. I think those are the people who are super adamant about it, and now there's zero growth.
If they're the ones who are not happy, they're not going to tell everybody else, and it's not going to grow. And you're not going to be able to convince the normal person to say, I'm going to drop $800.
I'm still adamant about it too. Like I said, 10, 15 years down the line, I think it really is going to be the most important thing.
I don't have 10, 15 years
we
left.
haven't. But here's the thing: a console generation or and a half or so, we're going to see changes in this technology. And what why I think and why I'm so adamant and why I really want this to work out is because we haven't seen a fundamental change to games in 15 years. We're playing the same games with just updated graphics, right?
Yeah.
There have been a few things in between, like, okay, where we've seen a few things in between, like we've seen gameplay changes, we've seen different team-based things
We're
like
all
Overwatch
soldiers now.
versus Call of Duty, but like we haven't seen a fundamental way to the way we play games. We've been playing with controllers and a TV screen for how long now?
Oh, I didn't
Well,
like this.
to kind of, I have one big point and one little point on that. Like, for me,
You have a little point too.
I have a little point. For me, having like mouse and keyboard or controller and TV, like that to me seems like it's the perfect thing.
I feel like
I
it's
think
always
we've
gonna be
mastered
there.
controllers, we've mastered keyboard and mouse, and like I said this before, like I don't really want motion controls in VR because like they're not as good as a mouse and keyboard.
I don't know. I think
one
if
of
you're
these
going
guys.
VR, you might as well get the whole experience in.
True.
Right.
But
Like,
what
it's not,
have you
it's not going to
played-
revolutionize. It's not going to be like, okay, now every game has motion controls because
Sure.
they tried that and it doesn't work. For
But don't you
almost
think
everything.
we've hit a point of stagnation with games? Like
I don't
really
think so.
I really appreciate story-driven games. Like when The Last of Us came out, I was shocked. I was amazed. I was like, this is great.
The guy with the powder prop was like,
Yeah, Uncharted 4 was like really cool
Hey,
to
that was
play
this game.
too. Overwatch has been great playing this year,
Yeah,
but
the
like, but I can go back. Overwatch is the same thing as Team Fortress 2, that came out nearly a decade
Right.
ago. The Last of Us is the same thing as like a combination of Half-Life and Uncharted that came out in 2007.
Well,
so
that's a little bit of an oversimplification.
right. To that, I have once again a little point, a big point I want to make.
More
The little
points.
point is, while there is like games like that are kind of stagnations, there are developments in like those kind of genres. Like for first-person shooters competitively, Rainbow Six Siege. While you can say the core gameplay is just guys shooting each other, there are whole different levels of verticality
That was
and
something
like
different.
Like
That
it's a
was-
complete change to the
yeah.
system. And also the big point I wanted to make was actually a point that Pierce made, where he said like, you know, the console generation, we talked about it a lot, they didn't come out with great games. But the difference that I see is that when the Xbox One came out, okay, yeah, it came out with Rise Son of Rome, not a great game, but there's the promise of, I know there's gonna be good games for it eventually.
Right.
One, for VR, it's like, right now, I can't see that happening. And also, like I said it before, and I think this is only just a me thing, I think that the first good game for VR is going to have to become, like, it's going to come out of a guy who completely revolutionizes like the way a game for VR is played. And it's going to be something that's completely different and crazy, and that like I don't think they're going to be able to repeat that too easily.
I just think that VR is like I think it's the next step. Like I think it is
the new
where I don't think it's going to take over what TVs and controllers do, but I do think it's going to be hand in hand with that stuff. Because like you talked about Rainbow Six Siege, and I understand where you're coming from. Like that game is crazy. The esports for that is fantastic. But like that's an iteration on something that Tom Clancy and Rainbow Six games have already established. Like there are games that do tactical stealth
I can-
stuff
yeah, I can see
going,
what you're saying.
and it's
Vegas.
It's like the extreme version
it's
of that.
iterating on that.
Yeah.
But it's not the leap that I am looking
So you're
for.
talking
And I
about,
feel
like-
like a lot of people are.
like kind of what I said, like a drastic change,
You know
a complete left turn.
You know how Metroid and
Breaking
Symphony of the
evolution.
Night came out, right? And they created Metroidvania. We haven't had a breakthrough like that in a super, super long time. We had the breakthrough with Call of Duty and Medal of Honor, right? They changed the way first-person shooters went from Doom. But all of that stuff we've had just prettier iterations of. And it's just iteration on iteration. And I get that's expanding what we already have. Myself and I think a lot of other people are looking for that quantum leap or that true revolution in gaming. And I think that's what VR is going to do.
So here's my question I pose.
Yeah.
Is this that you're disappointed with what we have so far, or is it just that your expectations are super high? Because what I'm thinking that you want, and I saw this online, and I wish I would have got it. There was a guy who actually had a treadmill set up, and it faced multi-directional, and then he had the
I've seen
virtual
that.
headset,
Oh,
yeah.
and
I've
he
seen
was
that.
playing Battlefield with
Yeah.
it. Now that was probably the dopest thing I ever seen, but it also probably cost like $5,000.
And also,
So
you play for
it-
30 minutes and you're sweating.
well, hey, that's the
That's the
immersive
point.
experience that
Yeah.
you
Remember
want, right?
Remember Wii Fitness?
Wii Sports.
Oh,
the Wii Fit balance board that totally worked.
Hey, we fit Smash Brothers. Broken.
Still good.
Anyways, but yeah, it's like, is that the kind of experience that you're talking about? Because that's going to give you that feel that you want. That's going to give you that extra sense. So that way, I guess you're getting what you expect and you're not feeling sick.
My expectations in the beginning were high, but not very high. Like when I'll compare it with like when I got the PS4, right? My expectations were super high, and most of them were met in terms of like the UI changed, the way we interact with each other in party chat, and
How good Knack
the way,
was.
Oh no,
Knack 2 confirmed.
the way
Saw it here first.
this is the biggest running joke ever. But like the way games ran, like I was truly impressed, and I was truly impressed by the scope of the worlds we could create. The Witcher 3 and Fallout 4 are huge, massive endeavors. But I played VR, and I played it for the first time, and I was like, oh, my standards went from high to medium. That's okay. But I expected to be able to get some kind of like experience out of that. To the point of now where like I don't think it was too high to just be able to play the game for 20 minutes without feeling sick.
Right.
And like I understand the technology is young, but like when you're going for $400 for the PSVR, $500 for the bundle pack, or $600 and $800 for Oculus and VR and Vive, there needs to be a standard of quality that needs to be met to the point of where I can play for at least 20 minutes without feeling deathly ill.
Right.
And that's the big thing about VR and even like the omnidirectional thing that you're talking about is in VR, like right now the games that we have last about 20, 30 minutes max, just pure gameplay.
They're experiences.
Yeah, if you can only play these games, and like for a game where omnidirectional you get tired after a while, if you can only play the games for like 30 minutes, 45 minutes, to me that's not a viable purchase because I want to play my games for a lot longer than that.
Depends on what you're doing in that 30, 40 minutes. Like
True.
I said, if we're running around literally on a treadmill, on the battlefield, shooting paintballs, all kinds of stuff, and like you're really there, 30 minutes is probably all I can
But
take.
John's getting at the replayability of games.
That's true, because if I got a VR and I only play it for 20 minutes at a time, I spent $800 on this thing.
Exactly.
I definitely see it because it's just like, hey, I played it for 20 minutes. I'm bored.
I play Call of Duty. I play Call of Duty and Battlefield in short bursts, so like I can play those for like. Well, Battlefield is probably gonna be like a 20-minute match, but you can play those for 20 minutes, right? But that has a replayability factor. What's out right now, like the Batman VR and the VR Worlds or whatever, once you go through those experiences, they're not. I guess so. Once you go through those,
Where's my VR? Bring to me. Rachel, the Oculus.
Rachel. Where are they? Where are the games though? Like, where are the experiences that are going to last more? They're coming, but like for the entry point right now, how many people are you going to? We're super nerds. Like we are the experts here, right?
Whoa, speak for yourself.
You are on this show. You have some amount of credibility and you have some amount of knowledge about what the gaming industry.
Rachel.
All right. Can we all agree though that we have some, like we've all played games for a huge part of our lives. We have a lot of knowledge about them. And so what I know is when you charge somebody $500 and $600 and there's not enough there to play, you have to come out with the software sells hardware. It's the reason why the Vita has failed. Because once the hardware wasn't going because it was too expensive, they cut off all software. So you just cut any chance that system had. It's the same thing. That's why Sega died. You had iteration on iteration.
That hurt.
You have iteration on iteration of these consoles that were just look better, but they cost money out the butt. And like it was just every year they had iterations for this, but the games weren't there either. Because you had the deterioration of Sonic, which we're still somehow
I don't know. I still think this recent console generation, Xbox and PS4, did not really have a good launch lineup, but they sold better than any console in history.
That's because that's all we had.
I don't know. I think the VR, it's not going to sell as well as these consoles, but it's this new thing, just like you're saying.
But consoles are a proven thing.
Consoles have had time.
To your point, I understand where you're coming from. I didn't buy a PS4 until June of 2014 when Infamous was out, and at the time Watch Dogs was one of the good games.
And Knack.
One of the good games.
But I played Resogun and I played like a lot of the indie titles on there that were actually really good. But consoles are a proven thing. VR, this is its first foray into the consumer's home. Like, if you screw up your first impression, that's hard to do.
That's true. Windows phones.
Yeah, Windows phones. Half the Republican candidates this year.
Oh boy.
Like,
I
had to throw that dig in.
I have a small point, just like you. So real quick,
all small points.
Very small
to compare
points.
it again to consoles, we said it's like the first generation of consoles, which obviously looks like trash compared to now. But that first generation, like the NES. And
when
not
it
the
happened.
first generation. The NES had Mega Man.
Yeah.
The NES had Super Mario Brothers 3. So
to be clear, the NES was like the third or fourth generation.
I know, but it's just an example. Okay, super nerd. So, but I'm just saying this system is going to get a killer app, and it's going to be Mega Man.
But soon enough, will it? Because PS Move went through the same thing.
This is the question I wanted to bring up. We have just a couple minutes left. Just a really quick thing. Like, if the next big thing comes out in 10 years, 15 years, do you guys think that it'll catch on at all? Or people will say,
It has to be huge.
I get like
Has to be huge.
what I'm saying is when the big thing
Huge.
comes out, like sure the usage will go up like maybe 10%, but I'm saying like you think it's gonna be big enough where like everyone's buying a VR.
But it's like
a VR.
No, I think there needs to be something big enough in the next year or
Like
two
recently.
Yeah,
in
yeah.
order to
Fast.
get people into it. And then you have we've perfected the craft of VR. Like people say that like Half-Life 2 is a near perfect game. You have The Last of Us is a near perfect game. You have things, the Horizon series and Gran Turismo, near perfect racing games. You have these things that didn't originally come out or their first iterations were good but not great. And now you have us stepping into where stuff like Uncharted 4 and The Last of Us comes out. And these games, Metal Gear Solid 5, that are sequels of series that have been predominantly out there,
Right.
and they've just been perfected because the graphics are better, the gameplay is better. They've had so much time to iterate on this, but that's because you've had substantial growth from the beginning of games that were great. PlayStation may not have existed if they didn't have a good launch lineup or if they didn't have good exclusive games. They had Final Fantasy VII, they had Castlevania Symphony of the Night, Spyro, Crash Bandicoot. These are games
Metal
that
Gear Solid.
if those games didn't exist on that console, PlayStation may not be a thing today. It really wouldn't be.
My heart.
But then you see, look, you had Metal Gear Solid and you had Crash Bandicoot and you had Spyro, and so now you have great not Knack. You have great 3D platformers.
Knack 2 though.
You have great 3D platformers on the PS4.
Knack 2
You have
PSVR confirmed.
You have
Oh my gosh, that'd be the worst.
You are
oh
Knack.
my goodness. You have great tactical espionage games in Metal Gear Solid 5 on
Right.
the PS4. But in order for us to have achieved that, in order for us to have reached that point,
You gotta
we had to.
you gotta break through the garbage.
So basically what you're saying though is they have 1 year to really perfect the hardware of it,
Yeah.
because if you can sell that we have this hardware down packed to get you what you want, the titles and stuff can come later.
Because this isn't a console. This is in addition to
Right.
something you already own in a PC or a
Okay.
console. You're losing it, bro.
Goodness. Do we have any
What
like
did
final,
I miss? What did I miss?
Yeah, well, you
too
can
much.
see it in post. Do we have
Oh,
any
gosh.
like final big things that we want to say about VR? Anything big?
I
A
really
message
get it
to John
right.
Carmack?
Like,
Yeah.
get it right. I agree with John Carmack that they're riding off of a gimmick. Make it right, make it good. Stop laughing behind the
Make
scenes.
it
I hate
right.
all of you.
Make it
I don't know
good.
what's happening. I'm gonna see you post and be upset.
Make PSVR great again.
Make it great again. All right, on that.
But was it ever great?
All right, I'm stopping
Oh,
this.
It's gotta be huge.
right now. This has been, what did I say, Picturesque? Did I say that at the
No,
beginning?
you said picture us the
No.
first time when
That's
we
a
screwed
Picturesque.
up.
Oh, yeah,
when
what
my
did I say
mic
the
wasn't
second
on.
time? Whatever, this has been a garbage
Angry?
pile
Welcome to Pagel
of
2.
Birds of Play. We have a very special, I just want to mention this, a very special video that we're going to play at the end of this. Our producer James made it for us a while ago. We're thinking about making this the new title
Yeah.
of Birds.
No.
Danger
It's
fire.
gonna-
Excited
great.
about episode 10 next week. We're
Excited
gonna
about episode
We're gonna
10.
have a lot of impressions. Civ 6, Battlefield
Yeah.
1.
Oh,
I'll
yes,
be playing
yes.
a lot of
Maybe,
VR.
is that going to be Halloween
The
episode?
Infinite
or-
Warfare beta.
Do you guys want to do
I
Halloween?
think it's after.
No, I
After?
think that's gonna be the one after because that's on a Monday.
That's right.
So
Okay.
I'm be playing a lot of VR this week, so I'll be able to talk about
I'm gonna
that.
play a lot of
but
Knack
yeah,
too.
so we're gonna have a lot of
Destiny, great.
we're gonna have a lot of impressions next
Shut
week.
up.
It's gonna double
Get out.
digit episodes,
Yep.
episode 10. So
All
excited
right.
about that.
This is John Starlin Macron.
Logan Anstead.
We're all soldiers now.
This is all right.
Signing
all right,
off.
We're done.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Roll that video.
Somebody once told me the world is gonna roll me. I ain't the sharpest tool in the shed. She was looking kinda dumb in the fingers, thumb in the shape of it on her forehead. Well, the years are coming, I don't stop coming. Fed to the rules and I hit the ground running. Didn't make sense not to live for fun. Your brain gets smart, but your head gets dumb. So much to do, so much to see, so much right when taking the back streets. You'll never know if you don't go. You'll never shine if you don't glow.
That was really cool. That was really
What
nice.
was that?
I don't endorse this at
You don't
all.
endorse that?
At all.
That wasn't good.
Wow.
This is not.
Wow.
If I didn't have water in this cup, I'd flip this table right now.
We're all angry now.
Yeah, we're
We're all Rachel now.
So like, we didn't even talk about the NX or whatever it's called.
No,
I
that was
let it go.
That was a backup.
I let it roll.
Yeah,
when we
well,
get some
do
more
we-
information on stuff.
Do we have to talk about it, or can we just all agree that it's gonna blow?
That's the end.
I don't know if it's gonna blow.
It's gonna blow.
We haven't even seen it yet. Why
It's
just
gonna
yet?
blow so hard.
Oh, it's gonna suck.
Hey, how's it going?
It's gonna suck.
Hey, little buddy.